Hi everybody, welcome out to the Dice Tower. My name's Chris Yi.
And I'm Mike DiLisio.
Today we're taking a look at this game here, No Loose Ends. This is a trick-taking game. Not a shocker that Mike and I are reviewing this one together. But this is from designer Taiki Shinzawa, known as a little bit of a trick-taking guru out of Japan, from a new publisher called Gamehead. They are bringing this one over from the original version of the game, which was released, I believe, only in Japan, right, Mike? Shut the books?
Yeah, that's right. It is a small, not too much smaller, though. Let's see, comparison-wise here. You can see the two boxes side by side. This one had a bit of a kind of a non-Hogwarts magical wizard school, where the idea was that you were trying to close some magical books that had been opened by mischievous students.
Yeah, so in this one, you're trying to commit the perfect crime if you can. So let me show you what makes the bidding and the trick-taking play unique here in No Loose Ends, and then we'll give you our thoughts. Here's No Loose Ends set up on the table. This is a trick-taking game, and as such, there's a deck of cards that is comprised of different values of cards, along with different colors or different suits. According to the chart here, you're going to set up and deal a certain number of cards to each player, taking out certain cards for lower player count games. This is a trick-taking game, which means, as in most cases, if you play out a card, one person leads, everyone else has to follow by playing a card of that same color if they have one. If they're not able to, they can play any color. Whoever plays the highest number of that led color will win the trick, and you're trying to hit a certain number of tricks that you win out of the 12 or 15 cards in your hand. The other wrinkle is that the blue suit, the key suit here, is what's called the trump suit. So as everyone plays out cards, no matter what number of red gets played, the highest blue card will win. This one takes priority. So even a 1 beats out these other numbers. If everyone did play red, then the highest red card wins the trick. But before you even start playing, this is a game that requires a little bit of bidding. So in this game, whoever starts off first is going to take a card from their hand, and they're going to say, I think I can win a trick with maybe these gray cards because they have very high value. Or the blue card being the trump suit, maybe I can win one with trump. So in order to predict, in order to place your bids, you'll take a card face up in front of you. And then the next person is going to go, placing a card face up in front of them. And you continue around the table. Everyone can bid a card, or they can say 0. They think they're going to win 0 of them. When it comes back to you, you can continue bidding. And you keep going around the table until you hit the maximum number of bids, or if everyone passes. If I'm content now, I could pass, or I could say, no, I've got way too high a cards. I'm definitely going to do, let's do this, 7. So what you're predicting here is how many tricks you think you'll win, but also specifically with what colors of cards you think you'll win them, or numerical values. So in this case here, if I think that I'm going to win a trick with this blue 8, I could put out this red 8 in front of me when it comes back to my turn. And what I'm saying is here is I'm going to win a trick with a yellow card or a 5, a gray card or a 7, a red card or an 8. And then we just start playing from here. Once everybody else passes, after having put out the number of bids they'd like to aim for, comes to me, I do another one, pass, 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 and then I'll go ahead and I'll do one more here. Everybody else has passed, so we start playing from here. So I will simply lead out a card, and then everyone else will play cards out, matching, doing the typical trick-taking thing that I mentioned. Let's talk about one last special condition before scoring. Let's say that somebody led a red trick here. If I'm out of red, I can play trump suit in, and so I choose to do so. I win this trick. Now you notice I won with blue and a 6, which does not match one of my bids. However, a special rule, when you win with the trump suit, you can choose to, instead of taking it to cover a blue bid, you can use to cover whatever the lead suit was. So in this case, I could collect these cards and cover up the red bid because it was a red lead trick. So now let's talk about scoring. Here at the end of the hand, I have covered up all of my bids. This one with a yellow card, this one with a gray, this one with an 8 for my example, and then this one as you saw. Players are going to score positive 2 points per covered up bid of theirs. They will lose 1 point per loose end. If a player has an uncovered bid, or if they won too many tricks, more than they predicted, then that is also considered a loose end and would be worth -1 point. If you are able to hit your bid exactly, you'll get a 5-point bonus for the perfect crime. So 8 points here plus the 5 for the perfect crime. Now, if someone bids 0, the snitch scoring, and they're able to hit it, they will get 10 points. No one else gets that perfect crime bonus, and then all of the penalties, the -1 point per loose end, is doubled. There are also some little variants here where you can choose to, as you're in the middle of bidding, you can choose to zero your bid out. And you can also use these getaway cards, which can get shuffled into the deck. And they are suitless cards that allow you to basically guaranteed not win a trick. You play one in even when you could follow and you choose not to. So there's also simplified scoring, which is based on the original Shut the Books. This exact scoring here is that. So there you go. That is no loose ends. Normally, I wouldn't really start off a discussion about trick-taking games with, like, the theme and everything, but, because most of the time I was like, well, it was set dressing so you could play cards of colors and numbers, but I would say I think that there's a bit of good theming, positive done with this one, Mike. Not sure if you have similar thoughts to me on that.
Yeah, I definitely do. I actually prefer the theme in No Loose Ends from the original theme, Shut the Books, which was very much just window dressing for cards with colors and numbers. In No Loose Ends, it actually does make the game easier to teach and make some more intuitive sense, because the idea is, like you said, you're trying to commit this perfect crime and you want to cover up every piece of evidence that you may have left behind. And so I think that it works very well. There were several changes made between Shut the Books and No Loose Ends, but the theme, I think, is certainly a very positive change.
I'd agree, because it's just that it's something as simple as the idea of the name, No Loose Ends, right? That you can call either type of the mistakes you can make in this game as loose ends. All of those are -1 point, right? Every bid you made that is not covered up is a loose end. Every trick that you won, either beyond your bid or of a card color and number that doesn't match something you bid, you know, each of those is a loose end, and I think that makes this game a little bit easier to teach than the Shut the Books version. Also, kind of a funny note that you can win the right number of tricks, but they're the wrong kind, and you might have loose ends in both directions. I find that kind of humorous, and when that happens, you're not in a good place in the game.
No, you're definitely not. And so really quickly, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about a couple of the other differences, just because I think it's going to lead to further discussion about this game specifically. One thing is they expanded the player count. The original version of the game was a 3 to 4 player game. They've expanded this to 2 to 5 players, so that's a difference. They've made the scoring a little bit more friendly, I would say, not quite as punishing as in the original game. Another big difference is that in this game, as you've kind of mentioned, Chris, you are predicting not only how many tricks you're going to win, but which types of cards you're going to win those bids with, which is a pretty unique twist. And in the original version of the game, in player order, players would have to pick from 0 to 5 cards, and they would lay all of those out at the beginning of the round. And so you would have to make those kind of assessments right at the beginning without seeing what anyone else was going to do if you're the first player. In No Loose Ends, each player one card at a time is going to be playing one out or, you know, passing. And all of those changes, I think, make the game a little bit more forgiving, a little bit less punishing than in the original edition.
And for me, in my taste at least, it's more fun that way, right? I know that fun is a very subjective measure, but I really like that because I've heard for quite a while, oh yeah, the Shut the Books is a fantastic trick taker. And when I did get around to playing it, I thought it was good, but it kind of pushed the line past like stressful and tight for what I prefer. I personally find that bidding on tricks is already kind of a stressful mechanism. And many times it's fun kind of stress, but that in the original where you had to say, well, I'm putting out 4 cards, and the next few people also do that, and you go, whoa, I might have put out too many. I really like this system of doing one at a time, because as you see people pass and drop out, you think, oh, okay, I can feel a little more confident. And so I definitely enjoy that. So yeah, like you said, Mike, all of the changes that they made in this one, comparing them to the original, are definitely more welcoming. I would say, you know, this is easier to teach, and I find that to be a huge strength because, well, with so many good trick-taking games out there, I'm not necessarily, you know, maybe you are, but I'm not necessarily playing the same ones weekly with the same group. So teachability is kind of an important factor for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, trick-taking, you may find a couple that kind of like your games that you play over and over again, but for the most part, especially in this kind of new era of trick-taking that we have right now, where there's, you know, iterations on things that maybe we've seen before, there's kind of like, okay, what's the hook for this one? What's different about this one? And so, you know, this certainly, what I really appreciate is that they made these changes that we've talked about that are more, a bit more welcoming, smooth out some edges, make it less punishing and maybe more widely approachable. But they did it without losing the core of what made the original game so compelling. So they didn't take away any kind of the spiciness. They just made it a little bit more approachable, a little bit more forgiving, and therefore a little bit more accessible to a wider audience, which, you know, I think the point of this is to take a game that was essentially a one print run. Almost all of these small Japanese trick-taking games are considered to be like one print, and then when they're sold, they're done, unless a publisher comes and picks them up. This is now going to be something that's more widely available and still keeps the core of what made Shut the Book so good. Just really briefly also, they added a couple of things that were not in Shut the Books beyond the player count and the changes. They added in a couple of variants. One is that you can add in some cards that are basically no-win cards, that if you have them in hand, you can play them. You don't even have to, you can, you know, break the must-follow rule. You can play them at any time. And it essentially means you're not going to win that bid. And so I like that. That's an interesting thing. And in the original game, there was no idea of being a snitch, I think they call it, in No Loose Ends, which is declaring that you're going to win no bids. And if you successfully do that, not only do you get points, but you prevent anybody else that round from getting a perfect crime bonus. So some neat little twists they threw in there.
I agree, right? Especially with the point of, like, it doesn't lose its core. It doesn't lose the fact that it is a stressful bidding system, because you put out that red 12, you're really committing to it, right? But it keeps it in a realm that I find to be more fun rather than tense, like past the point I want. And man, those little extra cards are really fun, the no-win cards, because this is a game about not only trying to hit your own bid, but purposefully trying to make others miss on theirs, right? If you can stick them with even just one extra trick that they didn't want to win, it really, you know, it can kind of throw them off balance for a second. And so those extra cards are a fun wrinkle, and they're a variant, I think, for a reason, but I find them to be a very fun variant that I'll include, probably depending on how serious and thinky the players at my table would prefer their game. So it's nice that you have that option in there.
Yeah, I agree, obviously. I mentioned it to begin with. There were a couple of things I feel, you know, I've mentioned a lot of good because I think this game does have a lot of good. I'm not trying to bury the lead here at all. But there were a couple of elements, and mostly related to the rules. Honestly, it's maybe the only issue I have with it is that I particularly felt like one aspect of the game was not covered very well, and that is that, you know, when you are winning a trick and you're covering up your loose end, so to speak, you're usually either covering up the color of the card that you win with or the number of the card that you win with. But there's a third way you can do that, and that is when you don't have the lead suit and you play the trump suit on top of that. You can then use that card to cover up the lead suit. And I didn't think that was especially well explained in the rule book. I thought, you know, if I had not played Shut the Books, I think I would have been a little bit confused by it just by the wording in the rule book.
It was a little bit of I don't want to nitpick too much. It was kind of like soft language rather than like, this is one of your clear options. Like, you can kind of do this if you want it. But I agree. And then another note I found with the rules was that there was no explanation when you start a new round who leads off. Does first player pass, or no, actually it is just whoever won the last trick of a round is going to be the first starting bidder and everything for the next round. Little things that I think that you're right could have been tightened up. Gamehead is a new publisher, and so that is going to, that is the thing I feel the need to point out, and I hope that they kind of clean that up in future rule books. Coming on to this, I feel like I was probably going to enjoy this game. I liked Shut the Books, but kind of moving into final thoughts here, I think I was surprised how much I liked the improvements in here. Score-wise, I'm coming in at an 8.5 for No Loose Ends, and I know I like a lot of trick-taking games, but for a game I think to kind of push that high, I think most trick-taking games average right around a 7 for me. Very few of them are like awful or too random, but there are those ones that don't come in at a 7 for me that are not that good. But to kind of push higher than the rest, because something you said earlier, Mike, there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of kind of wrinkles and twists on things that you've already experienced. I think that this one really does stand apart in the genre. It's one that I have fun teaching to people. Not maybe a first trick-taking game, because that precision bidding is pretty tough. But I think that if you have experience with the genre, it's cool because you can say, this is unique, and it's simple in its uniqueness, and yet still so rewarding. And you can kind of laugh at people when they miss their bids, when they stick you with something that you didn't want. You kind of laugh along as well. But it still is thinky, to the point that on the box they wrote here, 2 to 5 players, 40 minutes, thinky. And they're right. So yeah, 8.5 for me. I think that this is great.
And I'm going to come in slightly higher. I'm actually going to be giving No Loose Ends a 9. And there's a few reasons why, I think many of which I've already illuminated in the review. But the designer, Taiki Shinzawa, I just think straight up is the best trick-taking designer in the business. Just a consistent level of quality and a uniqueness without, sometimes he can lean into the esoteric that can be a little bit too much, but I feel like most of his games really still kind of follow some of the formulas that you expect in trick-taking games with a twist or two that really shake things up, and I think that this game does that. But it is more widely accessible now with this new production of No Loose Ends, and so I'm very, very happy to see that. I probably am not dinging it enough for the couple of things we mentioned in the rules. When you mentioned the idea of not mentioning that the player to play a next trick is the one who won the following trick. I think that's especially a danger in trick-taking rule books, because usually the people writing them are trick-taking game players, and so you almost just forget shorthand. That's kind of a standard in trick-taking. Well, it's not across the board, and if you've never played a trick taker, you wouldn't know that. So I could maybe be dinging it a little bit more, but I'm not. I'm going to stick it a 9 because I really do think that this is one of the best, I'll say again, the best trick-taking designer, with a release that is hopefully going to be a bit more widespread. People can get a sense for what different things are coming about. There's a lot of trick-taking games being released right now. I think this one walks that nice line of being different, having a hook, but is accessible enough that I don't think that it's going to scare off too many players. So just a rock solid design, and I'm happy that hopefully more people are going to get a chance to play it.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's our thoughts on No Loose Ends. Taiki Shinzawa designer, Saibepu, by the way, with the excellent artwork, a little bit out of her typical style, which I love to see. So go check this one out. Mike and I are both recommending it, giving it a seal of excellence. So until next time, everyone, my name is Chris Yi.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
And clean up the evidence.
Clean up the evidence, and why isn't the Trump color red? Taiki Shinzawa is always the red Trump. Everybody knows this.
Hey, thanks for watching another video here on the Dice Tower. We really appreciate you stopping by and checking our things out. Thanks so much for joining us today. And hey, if you really like what we're doing here at the Dice Tower, then there are different ways to support the Dice Tower. One of those ways is through Patreon. We have links in the description to this video, and we have links to lots of other things we do down there, so definitely check it out. But either way, we're glad you watched us. Tell your friends about the Dice Tower. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vassell, and I hope you enjoyed this video.